what's up? Shrimp curry is a Thai-style takeout classic for sure, but depending on the part of the world you're from or what kind of restaurants you have in your neighborhood, it can mean a lot of different things. For me, it's shrimp cooked in a really rich coconut broth with ginger and garlic, maybe some other aromatics. It's served with some nicely cooked vegetables over some rice. It's salty and sweet and full of that Southeast Asian intensity. It's really fun to eat and really fun to cook. So let's get started. When we're cooking at home in this Thai style, and I say that very loosely here, most of the flavors of this dish happen fast, so we need to prep everything ahead for the most part so we can concentrate on getting things cooked properly in the pan. So to get started here, I like to grab a large knob of ginger, about 2 inches, and start grating it on one of the finest sides of my box grater. You're gonna notice that this ginger is unpeeled, by the way, and that's just because I don't really like peeling ginger, and in my experience, it really hasn't been a problem thus far. This ginger is gonna get cooked in the dish, so any bits of fiber that survive the grating are definitely gonna have time to tender up. Once my ginger is grated, I'm gonna set that aside, and I'm gonna grab 3 cloves of garlic, and we're gonna grate these on the same side as the ginger. When you're getting to the bottom of these garlic cloves, watch your fingies. You could lose a tip of a fingernail on one of these box graters, so just be careful. And once that garlic's broken down, we're gonna move over to cutting up some veggies for the curry. So this is probably the best time to mention that this is not a particularly traditional or culturally accurate curry at all. And I'm fine with that. I'm not trying to be 100% Thai here. This is just something that I make at home, and it's Thai adjacent. It's Thai-ish. I usually like to put a little bit more attention to detail than you might see from a typical takeout place, and that usually comes in the form of better ingredients, specifically the shrimp and the freshness of the vegetables. In a dish like this, these vegetables bring some texture, some snap, and some brightness that help them stand out against that soft, plump shrimp. Today I'm gonna be using 2 vegetables. We're gonna be using green beans and shishito peppers. In the summer, I always grow shishitos in my garden, so I have easy access. They're available at most grocery stores these days though, and if you haven't heard of them, they're a snappy little delicious pepper that have bright green, almost floral character, and they kind of taste like a jalapeno without the heat. They have great texture, they're super versatile. A lot of people would say 1 in 10 of these are hot, but I have not found that to be true. I'm just gonna call it a lie. I've eaten hundreds of these peppers over the years, and I've maybe gotten 2 to 4 hot ones ever. So don't even worry about it. I'm just gonna go as far as say this is not a hot pepper. It does have the flavor of a hot pepper though, which is pretty awesome. And if you can't find shishitos at your grocery store, don't sweat it. You can sub in some chopped green bell pepper or red bell pepper, just something that has that kind of floral, fresh snap to it. Once I've got these shishitos picked and inside, we're just gonna chop them down real quick into bite-sized pieces. I need about 1.5 cups of chopped shishitos all day. Once we've got those cut, I'm gonna set them aside and I'm gonna grab 1 pound of fresh green beans. These are also seasonally appropriate, by the way. In the summertime, I grow a ton of green beans, so they're going in. I like to cut these into about 1-inch size pieces so they cook uniformly and quickly. Anything larger, like a whole green bean size, is not gonna be super fun to eat, and it's not gonna be really easy to cook to the texture that we like. One of my major beefs with takeout food in general, no matter what the style, is that there's usually just giant chunks of undercooked vegetables that just get thrown in the mix as an afterthought. In our version today, we're aiming to get a proper cook on these vegetables so that they play just as strong of a part as this dish is the shrimp. Once we've got these green beans broken down, we're gonna set those aside, and to finish up the prep, we're gonna peel and devein our shrimp. If you're cooking this on a weeknight, it's probably best just to go for a peeled and deveined shrimp. The only prep you need to do to those is just popping the tails off, but be careful because in general, the peeled and deveined shrimp that come out of the grocery store case can be a little bit beat up and kind of low in terms of quality and flavor. These pink shrimp that I bought are wild and have a ton of shrimpy flavor. A comparable option here would be something like a Gulf brown shrimp or a red Argentinian if you can find it. For the most part, the price tag on this stuff does reflect the quality, so try and stay away from stuff that is super cheap and avoid the really small sizes like the 79-100 salad shrimps. Those are usually a really weird texture because they're soaked in phosphates and they don't really have a ton of flavor, so avoid them if you can. Since these are shell-on shrimp, we're gonna need to peel and devein them like I said. So for that, my best move is scissors. We just cut down the back from the head end all the way down the tail, splitting it open, and then we gently squeeze the tail to get as much meat out of there as we can. Once you got the shell off, you just pull out that poopy thing in there and just set that aside. Don't worry about it. I've started here with about 2 pounds of shrimp because I find that after it's all said and done, when these shrimp are peeled, it gives me about 4 total servings, which is what I'm usually aiming for. That's enough to feed me and Lauren for dinner and then have 2 lunches the next day, or 4 people for dinner. I'm gonna throw these shrimp shells into a 4-quart stock pot with about 2 quarts of water, and I'm just gonna put it on a simmer and let it go for the time that it takes me to finish prepping the rest of this dish out. This is a very rudimentary shrimp stock, and if you wanna use store-bought chicken stock instead, definitely go ahead. But for me, I've got these shrimp shells here. It's a shame to throw them in the trash. I'm gonna turn them into shrimp stock on the spot. Before we start cooking all this, I'm gonna get a pot of rice going because that's how I like to eat this dish. But the final dish here is really saucy and it's almost like a soup, so it really benefits from having something in the bowl to help soak it all up. You could also use some ramen noodles or some rice noodles here, or if you're in a less fun stage of your life, throw some cauliflower rice under there. Today I'm using a medium grain rice called kale rose, which is my favorite at the moment. It's super creamy. It can be used for sushi or risotto, has a really fun springy texture, and has a ton of flavor. To get started cooking this shrimp curry, we're gonna heat up our largest non-stick pan. I really recommend this pan in particular. It's about 14 inches. It's a restaurant style non-stick pan, and it's very cheap. It's like 70 bucks for a pan this big. This is my daily cooking pan, and I really love it because it's huge and it can easily make 4 to 6 servings of whatever I'm making that day. And like I said, I think this pan is only like 60 or 70 bucks online. I will definitely link to it down below for you guys to check out. I am planning on making a video on this pan in the future because it's dope. We're heating up this pan for a while. I want to get this thing super hot. A lot of the Southeast Asian cooking is done in a wok or in really, really hot surfaces. So we're gonna give this like 5 or 6 minutes over high heat to get like thoroughly heated up. At that point, I'm gonna add in about a tablespoon of coconut oil or anything that's really high smoke point. Don't use olive oil, it could burn. This pan's super hot at this point. Once our oil's in the pan, we're gonna add in our vegetables. Again, this is about 1.5 cups each of the shishitos and the green beans. We're gonna hit them with a little bit of salt and just pan roast these on high heat for about 3 to 4 minutes. I'm gonna be flipping this pan and stirring it constantly until they're just getting tender. And don't be afraid, this pan's gonna smoke a little bit and the veg are gonna take up a little bit of char, and that's great because it just makes these things taste super fun. These veggies are gonna steam in the bowl while we cook everything else, and then they're gonna cook a little bit more once we throw them into the coconut broth later on. So we're gonna pull them off the heat before they're done cooking, maybe about 70% of the way there, and then we're gonna throw this pan back over high heat with another tablespoon of coconut oil. Once that coconut oil is hot, which should be right away, we're gonna throw the shrimp in there and we're gonna hit them with a strong pinch of salt and just let them sit there for a minute on one side. Great color on both sides of the shrimp here isn't necessary for this dish. After about 90 seconds of frying on a high heat, we're gonna give them a stir and toss and kind of let them cook and steam for an additional 20 seconds or so. Just like the vegetables, we're gonna pull them off the heat. They're gonna go back into the coconut broth in a little bit, and they're gonna finish cooking in there. So return the pan to high heat one more time and add in about a tablespoon of coconut oil. At this point, we're gonna throw in the ginger and garlic that we grated earlier and saute this whole set on high heat for about 20 seconds until things are starting to get really aromatic. But we definitely don't wanna let the garlic burn. I think we all know the bitter, acrid, terrible flavor of burnt garlic, so we have to be really careful here. At this point, we're gonna add in 10 grams each of turmeric and yellow curry powder. It's about a tablespoon of each. If you wanna make this into a green or red curry, the paste of your choice would go in here instead of the aromatics and the spices. This recipe is super versatile, and once you get the hang of it, you can use any meat, any veg combo, and any combo of aromatics and spice. Once our sauces have been frying in that coconut oil for about 15 seconds to wake them up, we're gonna add in a whole can of heavy coconut milk. Not the light coconut stuff and not coconut cream, just straight up plain coconut milk. I usually go with an unsweetened coconut milk because I like to add the sugar to my taste. That store-bought stuff that has the sugar added can be a little bit too sweet for me. We're gonna stir everything up here to get well combined, and we're gonna cook the whole thing out for about 4 to 5 minutes. Before we do that, we are gonna add this shrimp stock. I'm gonna pour this through a strainer just so I don't get any shells into my broth. And feel free to adjust the consistency with this shrimp stock if things get a little bit too thick later on. Before we finish this dish by putting the shrimp and veggies back in, we need to season up the broth. Right now this broth is gonna be kind of bland and it needs a few things to punch it up. So we're gonna get started with 25 grams of sugar, 25 grams of sambal or sriracha, the chili paste of your choice, 25 grams of fish sauce, and 25 grams of rice vinegar. This might seem like a lot of spice and sugar and funky fish sauce, but all the Thai cooking that I'm aware of is so vibrant and fun, pretty much because of this unapologetic use of sugar and fish sauce and chilies in savory foods. We're gonna stir everything in to combine here, simmer it for 30 or 40 seconds, and then we're gonna taste it. This is where we find out if things are in balance. Like I said, this is gonna be sweet and salty and rich. spicy, kind of tart from the vinegar. And only when you're really happy with how this broth tastes, we're gonna add in our shrimp and our veggies. At this point, there's gonna be a lot of food in this pan to manage. So if you don't have a saute pan that's this big, a high-sided pot like a Dutch oven is probably your best alternative. We're gonna simmer everything in this pan for about 90 seconds until the shrimp are cooked through and the veggies lose a little bit of their raw snap. We're gonna taste this one more time, make sure that our shrimp are cooked all the way through, and we're gonna take it off the heat. Things are gonna carry over a little bit, but we wanna make sure that we're not cooking this too much. These Southeast Asian flavors are very sharp, very in focus, and too much cooking to something like this can really round it off and make it a little bit dull. And that's my shrimp curry. I make this during the week, I make it on the weekend. To me, this is just a sharper, more in focus version of something I've gotten in a takeout container for years. This dish is somehow at home both on like a sweaty summer night or in the winter when you're snowed in and you just want to eat something comforting and warm. So enjoy it. Let me know how it goes in the comments down below. If you like this video, please give it a like. As always, guys, thank you so much for your time and attention. Thank you for being here, and we'll see you next time.